Listen to this slowly, because this is not hype and it is not motivation. This is reality, and most people never hear it clearly enough to change their lives. Everyone says success is hard, discipline is hard, focus is hard, but nobody talks about how hard it is to stay stuck, how hard it is to wake up tired even after sleeping, how hard it is to scroll through other people's wins while making excuses for your own life, how hard it is to feel potential inside you but never turn it into proof. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Life does not remove pain. It only lets you choose the source. And if you do not choose discipline, discomfort will choose regret for you, automatically, silently, over time. And that is how most people lose, not in one dramatic failure, but in slow daily decisions that feel harmless in the moment. Skipping today, delaying effort, choosing comfort, telling themselves they'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow keeps moving, and years pass, and suddenly motivation turns into bitterness, and dreams turn into stories you tell yourself to feel better. And if this is uncomfortable to hear, good, because comfort is what kept you average. Comfort is what negotiated with your ambition. Comfort told you to wait, to relax, to settle. And comfort never tells you the price up front. It charges interest later. And the reason this message is landing right now is because something in you already knows you are behind where you should be, not compared to others, but compared to your own capability. And that gap, that quiet frustration, that internal pressure you feel sometimes late at night, that is not weakness, that is awareness. And awareness is dangerous if you ignore it, and powerful if you act on it. Because winners are not more motivated than you, they are more decisive. They decide early what kind of pain they are willing to accept. They choose early mornings over late excuses, effort over ease, standards over feelings. And once the decision is made, they stop negotiating with themselves. And this is where most people fail. They keep reopening decisions. They wake up every day debating whether to show up, whether to try, whether to push, and every debate drains energy, while disciplined people remove debate. They build routines that force progress even when motivation is gone. And that is why they move faster, not because they're special, but because they are structured. And if you are still listening to this right now, understand this clearly. Your current life is not a reflection of your potential. It is a reflection of your habits. And habits are not destiny. They are choices repeated, which means they can be replaced, but only if you stop lying to yourself about where you are. Because growth starts with honesty, and honesty hurts, but it heals. And if this message is hitting you, then hit like, because you are choosing truth over comfort. And understand, this is not the end of your story, but it is the moment where excuses stop working and standards must rise. Here is where most people misunderstand progress and sabotage themselves without realizing it. They think motivation is the engine. They think feeling inspired is the key. They think if they just wait until they feel ready, everything will suddenly change. But readiness is a myth, and motivation is unreliable, because motivation depends on emotion, and emotion changes daily, while success depends on systems, pressure, and execution. And execution does not care how you feel. It only responds to what you do consistently. And this is why so many people start strong and fade fast. They rely on emotional spikes instead of building non-negotiable standards. They wait for confidence before acting instead of letting action create confidence. And every time they hesitate, they reinforce the identity of someone who quits when it gets uncomfortable. Because identity is built through evidence, not intention. And the evidence you collect daily tells your brain who you are. So if your days are filled with excuses, your mind learns that excuses are acceptable. But if your days are filled with follow-through, your mind adapts and starts expecting discipline.
And this is the shift that separates average from elite. Elites do not ask themselves if they feel like doing the work. They ask whether the work needs to be done. And that single mindset removes friction, removes delay, removes self-negotiation, because negotiation is where momentum dies, and momentum is everything. Momentum changes speed. Momentum creates belief. Momentum shortens timelines. But momentum only comes from intensity applied consistently to the right priorities, not from being busy, not from multitasking, not from consuming endless content and calling it preparation, because preparation without execution is just procrastination in disguise. And if you are honest with yourself, you already know where your time leaks are, the scrolling, the distractions, the low-value habits that drain hours and give nothing back. And the uncomfortable truth is that you cannot build a high-performance life with low-performance routines. It does not work. It never has, and it never will. Because time is neutral. It rewards focus and punishes neglect equally. And high performers respect time aggressively. They protect it, they structure it, they compress it. They would rather have 1 hour of ruthless focus than 10 hours of distracted effort, because focused work compounds, while scattered effort cancels itself out. And if you feel like you are working hard but staying in the same place, it is because effort without direction is invisible to progress. And this is the moment where consumption has to turn into creation, where watching has to turn into doing, where planning has to turn into pressure, because nothing changes until behavior changes. And behavior does not change through inspiration. It changes through standards, through removing escape routes, through making quitting more painful than continuing. And if this message is triggering resistance inside you, that resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a sign you are close to the truth, because the ego hates accountability. It prefers comfort. It prefers stories that protect self-image. But growth demands responsibility, and responsibility is heavy, but it is also powerful, because the moment you take responsibility, you take control, and control is the foundation of confidence. So if you are still listening right now, understand this is not about working harder forever. It's about working with intention long enough to change your trajectory. And once momentum is on your side, everything feels different. Effort feels lighter, discipline feels normal, and progress becomes addictive. And that is when you realize you were never lacking motivation. You were lacking standards. And standards are a choice you can make today.
This is where the conversation shifts from effort to leverage, because working harder alone will not free you if you keep aiming your effort in the wrong direction. And this is where most people stay trapped, not because they are lazy, but because they are misaligned. They put energy into activities that pay once instead of skills and systems that pay repeatedly. They chase short-term relief instead of long-term leverage, and then wonder why progress feels heavy, slow, and exhausting. Because leverage is what turns effort into freedom, and leverage comes from ownership. Ownership of your time, your skills, your thinking, and your standards. And the moment you start building instead of just earning, your relationship with work changes. Struggle stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like investment, because every hour has a future attached to it. And this is where discipline deepens, because discipline without vision feels like suffering, but discipline with vision feels like strategy. And strategy removes emotional decision-making. You stop asking what is easiest and start asking what compounds, what builds, what creates momentum beyond today. And this is the mental upgrade most people never make. They stay stuck in survival mode, trading hours for money, reacting instead of designing, consuming instead of creating. And survival mode keeps you busy but never free. While builders think in systems, they ask, how can this effort repeat? How can this skill stack? How can this decision make the next one easier? And that mindset shift alone separates those who stay stressed from those who scale, because stress comes from unpredictability and control comes from structure. And structure is built through consistency, not intensity alone, because intensity starts momentum, but consistency locks it in.
And the hardest phase is always the quiet phase, the phase where effort goes out but results do not come back immediately, the phase where doubt grows, patience is tested, and quitting feels logical. But that phase is not a signal to stop, it is proof that the foundation is being laid. Because growth is invisible before it becomes undeniable. And every person you admire went through a phase where nothing worked publicly, but everything was forming privately. And if you quit there, you never cross the threshold where leverage kicks in. And this is why discipline must outlast emotion. Because emotion fades when results delay, but discipline carries you through the gap. And once momentum builds, identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. And that identity change is permanent, because once your brain has evidence of follow-through, it raises the standard automatically. And that is when life starts responding differently. Opportunities appear, confidence stabilizes, decisions get clearer, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And if this message feels heavier than motivation, that is intentional. Because freedom is heavy, responsibility is heavy, ownership is heavy, but heavy things build strong people, and strong people do not need motivation. They move because that is who they are.
This is the moment where everything becomes simple but not easy, because simplicity demands honesty, and honesty removes every excuse you've been hiding behind. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's going to hand you discipline, clarity, or confidence. And that is not a threat. It is the ultimate form of freedom, because it means the future is still undecided and you are the deciding factor. Every action you take or avoid today is quietly shaping the person you will have to live with tomorrow. And most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they keep delaying responsibility. They keep waiting for conditions to improve instead of improving themselves. But life does not reward waiting. It rewards movement, and movement creates feedback. Feedback creates learning, and learning creates momentum. And momentum is the closest thing to a cheat code that exists, because once it's on your side, effort feels lighter and progress accelerates. But momentum only starts when you commit fully, not halfway, not when it feels safe, but when it feels necessary. And this is the line most people never cross. They stay in the comfort of intention instead of the discomfort of execution. And intention without action is worthless, because the world does not respond to what you plan, it responds to what you do repeatedly. And this is where pain becomes unavoidable. The pain of discipline, the pain of focus, the pain of sacrifice, the pain of saying no to distractions, to people, to habits that are dragging you backward. But there is also another pain waiting if you avoid that one, the pain of regret. The pain of watching time pass while nothing changes. The pain of knowing you could have done more but chose not to. And that pain is heavier, longer, and permanent. So choose your pain consciously. Choose the pain that sharpens you instead of the pain that haunts you. Because discipline has an expiration date, but regret does not. And years from now, you will not remember how tired you were or how uncomfortable the process felt. You will only remember whether you honored your potential or betrayed it. And this is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming consistent. It is about stacking days where you show up even when you don't feel like it, because identity is built in those moments. And once your identity shifts, your standards rise automatically. And when standards rise, life has to adjust. Opportunities increase, confidence stabilizes, and fear loses its grip. Not because fear disappears, but because it no longer controls your decisions. And if you are still listening to this right now, understand this is not just a video, this is a decision point. And if this message challenged you, then like the video, subscribe for more long-form mindset content, and comment the commitment you are making today. Because clarity followed by action changes lives. And today is the day you stop waiting, stop negotiating, and finally step into the version of yourself that has been demanding your attention all along.